Believe it or not, this is peak storytelling. Silence is golden. Silence is wisdom, where speaking is folly. Listen and silent are spelled with the same letters. Think about it. A wise man once said nothing. He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words. Honestly, why do we even speak at all?
I waste time, say lot word when few word do trick.
In the realm of storytelling, the use of silence is a powerful narrative tool deployed for various creative purposes. It can ratchet up dramatic tension, establish a somber or gloomy aesthetic when employed consistently, or emphasize the incomprehensibility of an event of immense impact. Silence is often used to underscore subtext and the emotions experienced by characters, as well as emphasize tension or certain aesthetics. It pervades in various forms of media. The poignant ellipses in books, the silent horror on characters' faces in Junji Ito's novels, and the palpable tension in the infamous garage door scene from Breaking Bad. Unsurprisingly, the technique is also commonly employed in anime. Anime, as a form of media, frequently garners praise for its captivating soundtracks, compelling voice performances, and cutting-edge sound effects. However, there is relatively little discussion about those moments when all those elements are stripped away, leaving the audience in silence. This, in turn, forces viewers to take notice, often creating some of the most compelling moments in storytelling. I haven't seen many discussions dedicated to exploring the power of silence within anime, which leads me to share my personal fascination on this topic. In this video, we'll delve into the rich history of silence in anime and examine the concepts of ma in Japanese aesthetics, and how anime's approach to silence differs from other forms of media. And of course, I'll share plenty of my favorite examples to illustrate these points. So shut your mouth, open your ears, and let's start listening to nothing. First, let's talk about ma. No, not your southern ma, the Japanese concept of negative space. Ma, often translated as negative space or the space between, is a fundamental aspect of traditional Japanese aesthetics. However, ma is not merely emptiness or absence. It's an interval filled with unspoken meaning, a pause that breeds anticipation, or a distance that creates emotional connection. In anime, we frequently witness the use of ma in storytelling. Moments of silence are strategically placed to emphasize an emotion, underline the weight of a situation, or create a sense of anticipation. Take this scene from Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I think I should sleep on the floor.
No, I'm staying at your place. I'm fine. I'll be okay on the floor.
What did you want to say to me?
What?
Or this moment from Ghost in the Shell. These silences or pauses are not voids to be filled, but rather they are rife with meaning, offering viewers a chance to absorb, anticipate, and connect. In terms of sound design, ma plays an equally important role. Just as silence and dialogue can convey profound emotions or tension, the careful control of the sound, the balance of noise and quiet, music and silence, creates an atmosphere that words alone can't achieve. Notice how the quiet moments in the music draw you in, making the sounds that do emerge feel more impactful. This interplay of sound and silence, the rhythm it creates, is a beautiful application of ma in the auditory realm. Now that we have a deeper understanding of ma, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the role of silence in anime. Rather than empty spaces, silent moments become meaningful pauses, offering depth to the narrative and enhancing the emotive power of sound. Now let's dive deeper into the contrast between the application of silence in anime and Western media. In anime, silence can often be leveraged as a reflective tool, offering viewers a moment to breathe and contemplate the events unfolding on screen. This can be seen in series like Mushishi, where the tranquil moments of silence and the ethereal landscapes contribute to the contemplative mood of the story. Similarly, in Violet Evergarden, silence accompanies the intricate emotional journeys of the characters, encouraging the audience to ponder their internal struggles. On the other hand, Western media often employs silence for dramatic effect. Take, for instance, the TV series Breaking Bad. One of the most tension-filled scenes occurs when Skyler, Walter's wife, confronts him after he drunkenly self-reports in front of his law enforcement brother. Silence is used to create suspense, serving as the calm before the storm of confrontation. The uncomfortable silence in this scene builds anxiety in viewers, anticipating the inevitable eruption of violence before Walter's infamous "I'm the one who knocks" speech. That said, anime can also share that approach. However, it's worth noting that anime often tends to extend moments of silence to build tension, sometimes significantly more than what is typical in Western media. Consider the elevator scene from Ava we started the video with. Long pauses are rarely seen in Western shows, where scenes are usually paced quicker. In contrast, Western media, especially Hollywood productions, tend to favor constant stimulation, sound, dialogue, action, with fewer pauses for reflection. While there are exceptions to this rule, such as the silent spaces in films like No Country for Old Men or There Will Be Blood, these remain relatively uncommon. These differences highlight the cultural divergences and the unique ways in which different mediums of storytelling leverage silence to achieve various dramatic effects. Anime's extensive use of silence underlines its willingness to experiment with pacing and ambiance, providing a distinct viewing experience that sets it apart from most Western media. Now, before we dive headfirst into a historical analysis of the power of silence in anime, let's clarify what I mean when I use the term silence. 1. Total silence. This refers to scenes where there is absolutely no sounds, voices, or music playing. True silence. Number 2. Silence or pauses in the dialogue, aka examples of ma. This refers to those moments within a show that are intentionally devoid of dialogue or other significant sounds to increase tension or emphasize a particular aspect. There might be some background noise or ambient hum, but there is no music playing. 3. Silent characters. This pertains to characters who remain mostly or entirely silent throughout the film or series. I just wanted to make this section to keep debates in the comment section to a minimum, with you guys being like, oh, that's not true silence because there's background noise. That's going to make things a lot harder. There's just different forms of it in the narrative and throughout the auditory experience. So I just wanted to get ahead of that so we can identify those versions of silence more clearly. Now, let's go back in time and take a look at the rich history of anime silence. Also, a spoiler warning for every series I'm going to discuss, so make sure to skip around if you don't want any of the major plot elements spoiled. This is Angel's Egg. Written and directed by Mamoru Oshii in 1985, who would then go on to create Ghost in the Shell, Angel's Egg is a slow, dark, confusing OVA inspired by Oshii's journey through Christianity. It was created in the era of inventive, dark sci-fi concepts in the wake of Blade Runner's success in 1982. Angel's Egg is a confusing nightmare that still feels slow on 1.5 times speed, but the film busts out the gate with some awesome silence. The film opens with a young woman's hands moving and stretching out in homage to Mary, the mother of Jesus, in complete silence. It then cuts to a big transparent bird's egg as a choir of voices slowly fade in as they sing dissonant trichords. This sets up the initial ambiance for the film as this strange, jarring, empty experience. Welcome to Angel's Egg. As far as I can tell, this is one of the first OVAs to utilize silence in such a purposeful and impactful way. The dark, bleak, dystopian, neo-Gothic world of Angel's Egg has a profound sense of loneliness to it. This is exemplified by a lack of music or even sound effects in a lot of cases. The main character, this girl with staticky hair, barely talks. The other guy barely talks too. Nor do they have names. In fact, there's only 64 lines of dialogue in the entire 71-minute film. Yes, I counted them. All of these choices portray a profound sense of loneliness as Oshii expresses his feelings about religion, Christianity, God, faith, and purpose in a bleak, dark, empty world. Angel's Egg didn't see much acclaim upon release. Its confusing and slow pace didn't have the mass appeal to be commercially successful, but the film has become a cult classic and is now greatly appreciated for its ambitious symbolic expression that would later be refined with the creation of Ghost in the Shell. I also think that this may have potentially inspired some of the religious aspects of Evangelion. I mean, literally think about how important the word angel and egg are in Evangelion. Coincidence? That might have to be another video essay though, because I can't find a whole lot of conversation about that either. So maybe it's just a crackpot theory I just came up with on the spot. But that's besides the point. What I'm getting at is that Angel's Egg is one of the first anime to utilize silence in a notably purposeful way. But who would go on to improve those ideas in a work that saw mainstream success? Akira. It was only a matter of time before I discussed Akira. It's a phenomenal piece of cinema. We all recognize its greatness. It's universally acclaimed as an excellent film. Akira good. For those somehow unfamiliar with Akira, it's an adult animated cyberpunk action film from Japan released in 1988. It's based on the manga of the same name, which first hit the shelves in 1982. Akira manages to refine and advance the sound design and experimentation seen in Angel's Egg, employing a similar blend of quiet, silent, and abrupt sounds that catch you off guard when you least expect it. Both films begin with silence in their opening scenes. The difference lies in Akira's use of ambient city noise to establish the vastness of the cityscape before it explodes in absolute silence. Typically, sound designers would see an animation of an explosion of such magnitude and feel compelled to accompany it with an appropriately impactful sound to highlight the devastation. You might expect a or a, but instead, they opted for silence. An eerie, sublime, disconcerting silence. The bombing of Hiroshima influence on Akira brings out another layer to this deliberate silence. The scale and destruction is so immense, it might as well be met with silence. It symbolizes the instant eradication of millions of lives, the horrifying realization of a world-altering event, all without a single sound. Stylistically, Akira largely eschews music, much like Angel's Egg, albeit with fewer random tritone choirs. Unless it's an action sequence, scenes are filled only with a soft hum of machinery or ambient city noises. This choice results in the film taking on a somber tone that echoes the bleak dystopia that Neo-Tokyo has become, a corrupt, hyper-violent, overcrowded police state. What better way to convey that feeling of hopelessness than with intentional silence? As is widely acknowledged, Akira had a profound impact on the anime industry, paving the way for an outpouring of dark dystopian dramas. In the wake of Akira and the renaissance of dark sci-fi anime, utilizing its own styles of narrative silence, a masterful series about the human condition in the wake of the giant robot kaiju battles would emerge and go on to see massive success that completely changed the anime landscape. Shut up and get in the robot. It's time to talk about Evangelion. Neon Genesis Evangelion was created by Hideaki Anno and won over audiences worldwide with its sophisticated character drama, stunning visuals, enigmatic and often bewildering plotline, and a profound sense of existential dread that has not been so effectively conveyed before. The series presents Anno's journey through depression and self-acceptance via his self-insert character, Shinji Ikari. The series' sound design is extraordinary. Although instances of absolute silence are rare, there are numerous examples of extended pauses filled with the drone of cicadas or loud ambient noise. After the second impact, it's suggested that seasons cease to exist, and the constant presence of cicadas symbolizes the eternal summer Japan now finds itself in. However, I believe there's more depth to this. As I analyze the series, I realize something. Shinji fears silence. His character is fraught with issues, and one that could easily go unnoticed is the almost constant presence of some form of loud noise or sound, punctuated by rare moments of silence. In episode 4 of the original series, when Shinji runs away, he also attempts to evade silence. Such quiet would force him to confront his thoughts, a process he dreads because of the potential pain it could stir up. This trait strengthens the portrayal of Shinji's desire to escape from everything. He turns to the cassette player for escapism, another key theme of the show, to drown out the world and his thoughts. Even when Shinji finds himself alone in the countryside, he is engulfed by loud noises. The chirping of birds, the rustling of trees in the wind, the buzzing of insects. These sounds pervade his surroundings. Even on the mountainside, where the wind howls, Shinji cannot find any escape from the noise. Upon Nerve recapturing Shinji after he wanders around for 2 days, there is a crucial scene between him and Misato. Misato remains silent as Shinji poses probing questions. Eventually, she snaps at Shinji's insolent demeanor and leaves him to grapple with the narrative silence following her harsh words. Shinji's turmoil is visible, and yet, he chooses to run away again. Misato, reminded by the hedgehog's dilemma that she sees in herself, realizes she may have been too stern with Shinji. Meanwhile, Shinji recognizes that he truly doesn't want to run away from the life he's started to establish. As he sits with his head bowed, one step before the train, there's a moment of true silence, during which Misato's words echo in his mind. Hang in there. As he experiences an epiphany, Shinji looks up and it cuts to the train leaving. Misato arrives and sees the train depart with Shinji on board. As she begins to look off in the distance, she finally spots Shinji across the train tracks. The faint sounds of cicadas and music fill the background, only to be interrupted by the upcoming train warnings. This interruption becomes comically prolonged as both characters remain motionless amidst the continuous train announcements. Finally, after an agonizing amount of time, Shinji repeats the phrase, "I'm home," from his initial arrival at Misato's home, to which Misato responds, "Welcome home."
I'm home. Welcome home.
While there aren't tons of examples of true silence in Evangelion, Anno employs extended pauses throughout the series with narrative silence, freezing scenes to underscore the presence or absence of sound. There's the iconic elevator scene, highlighting the escalating tension between Asuka and Rei in a painfully extended way. Also the scene in which Shinji holds Kaworu in Eva Unit 1's hand for an uncomfortably long time while the music plays. Shinji is frozen in fear, torn over the decision to kill the first person who's ever told them that they love him, setting up the intense internal journey Shinji has at the series' conclusion. Evangelion often uses narrative silence, but true moments of absolute silence are rare to find, and thus highly notable when they occur. In the final episodes of the original series, Shinji, Rei, Asuka, and Misato face text-based questions about their own identities and what they mean to others. The appearance of text on screen is accompanied by true silence, which is usually the main source of silence in the show. Rei, a notably quiet character throughout much of the series, rarely speaks, especially early on. When she does talk, it's usually significant. Rei's journey, portrayed particularly well through her silent persona, mirrors Soulless Doll's journey as she begins to emerge from her shell and become less reserved in her own person, providing an intriguing narrative arc to the series. Arguably, there could have been a lot more silence in the series if Anno didn't have an obsession with constantly filling quiet moments with cicada noises. However, this decision creates a unique sound design that distinguishes Evangelion. Do you think of Evangelion when you hear cicada sounds, or is it just me? So a few years after Eva's release, a noir-inspired jazzy space odyssey would take the world by storm, aka Cowboy Bebop. Conceived by director Shinichiro Watanabe, Cowboy Bebop is a critically acclaimed anime series that first aired in 1998. Developed by the production company Sunrise, it features a unique blend of multiple genres, including westerns, science fiction, and noir, with a jazz-inspired soundtrack by Yoko Kanno and the Seatbelts. The series is set in year 2071, following a crew of bounty hunters led by the cool-headed Spike Spiegel. This eclectic blend of elements, along with its engaging narrative and profound thematic depth, has cemented Cowboy Bebop as one of the most beloved and influential anime series of all time. Cowboy Bebop is a prime example of an anime series that effectively leverages the power of silence. While the show is often remembered for its lively jazz music and kinetic action scenes, it's the silent moments that truly elevate the storytelling. Cowboy Bebop likes to use what I call space silence, which is just brown noise in the background. It's the spaceship noise, very quiet. I'm just going to call that silence because it essentially does the same thing for narrative and pacing purposes. Throughout the series, moments of silence are strategically placed, allowing the viewer to sit with the characters' emotions and ponder their dilemmas. In one of the series' most iconic episodes, Ballad of Fallen Angels, silence is employed to an intense and dramatic effect. The climactic encounter at the church culminates a standoff between Spike and his former comrade, Vicious. There's a moment where Spike has his gun in Vicious's face and Vicious has his sword ready to stab Spike. They're in a standoff and everything goes silent. The years of tension and compassion these two have for each other stops them, only briefly, as they would go on to stab and shoot each other and ultimately have Spike get thrown out of the window, leaving a grenade for Vicious to enjoy. Silence also underscores the thematic exploration of loneliness in Cowboy Bebop. It's lonely and quiet in space. Each of the crew members, despite their constant companionship, grapples with personal ghosts and isolation. Their silent moments, whether they are deep in thought or merely staring into the expanse of space, underlines this sense of solitude. With only space silence to listen to, there's plenty of space to think about your mistakes, huh? Cowboy Bebop has plenty of examples of silence throughout the series, but let's look at one of the final episodes where it's used to great effect. Consider the poignant scenes in the final episode, The Real Folk Blues, Part 2. When Julia gets shot in the rain and dies, the sounds slow and then stop completely into silence as the horror of what has happened finally hits Spike. This dream that he's not sure that he's in or not. It's over. Later on in the episode, in one of the most powerful moments of the series, Spike and Vicious fight and end up exchanging each other's weapons. Spike tells Vicious that Julia is dead and it's time to end things. The two swap weapons. Prey blows, Vicious falls. Silence ensues.
It's all a dream.
Spike walks down the long staircase. He's severely wounded and drained. He stops, confronting a group of syndicate members at the bottom of the stairs, points a finger gun at them, says bang, and falls to the ground in brief silence, only for the final track to kick in as they crane up and away from Spike laying on the stairs, supposedly dead. Through scenes like this, Cowboy Bebop harnesses the power of silence to highlight its characters' inner turmoil, their struggles, and the culmination of their personal journeys. The silence allows the audience to engage more deeply with the narrative and the characters, adding a layer of emotional complexity to its already rich and dynamic series. Okay, now it's 2003. Welcome to 2003. A new anime is sweeping the nation by the name of Death Note. Originally a manga written by Sugumi Oba and illustrated by Takeshi Obata, Death Note was adapted into an anime television series by Madhouse. The story revolves around Light Yagami, a high school student who stumbles upon a mysterious notebook, the Death Note, which grants him the power to kill anyone simply by writing their name within its pages. One of the most effective uses of silence in Death Note is found in the mental chess game between Light and L, the world's greatest detective trying to unmask him. These mind games are often highlighted with pauses and silences that serve to enhance the suspense and tension. Have you ever seen those videos where they play the length of silence that would be happening in real time while they're thinking? It's funny to see. I'll link some of those in the description. Consider the scene from episode 9 titled Encounter, where Light and L meet for the first time while at their college acceptance address. L attempts to trigger a reaction by Light by telling him that he's L. The silence in the scene is palpable. For a few moments, there's complete silence. No background music, no noise, just silence. The silence amplifies the suspense and shock that Light experiences, and we, as viewers, feel the same. It adds an element of surprise and lets the weight of the revelation sink in. A clock noise kicks in as Light finally registers L's words, signifying that Light has precious time to react and respond perfectly. Finally, he responds, and we return to normal sound usage. Death Note regularly uses silence to punctuate the moments of revelations or climax. When a key piece of the puzzle falls into place, the background music fades away, leaving the viewer in a moment of quiet realization before the consequences of the new information unfold. These silences act as brief respites in the midst of a whirlwind plot, allowing the audience to reflect on the developments and anticipate the subsequent moves in Light and L's complex game of cat and mouse. Death Note, through its strategic use of silence, exemplifies how this technique can enhance the storytelling in anime, adding depth and drama to its narrative. Welcome to 2016, the world's on fire, and I'm not living a healthy life in college. If we're really going to talk about silence, well, we've got to talk about a silent voice, right? Produced by Kyoto Animation and directed by Naoko Yamada in 2016, the film is based on the manga series of the same name, written and illustrated by Yoshitoki Oima. A Silent Voice tells the story of Shoya Ishida, who, as a young boy, bullied his deaf classmate, Shoko Nishimiya. As he grows older and grapples with his past actions, Shoya seeks redemption and reconciliation with Shoko after finding himself completely shut off from society. The film uses silence in many unique ways to reflect Shoko's experience as a deaf individual. The sounds of the surrounding world are frequently dampened, creating quiet scenes that illustrate how Shoko perceives her environment. There's lots of moments of true silence, since the film takes a show-don't-tell approach to its storytelling, but this technique is utilized to emphasize the disconnect between Shoko and her peers, as well as to make the audience understand her experience on a deeper level. At the film's climax, there's a pivotal scene where Shoko attempts to jump off her apartment's balcony while fireworks are going off. Shoya realizes what's happening and desperately attempts to save her. The tension in this scene goes haywire as it cuts to silence, and the lights become blurry. It expresses both Shoya's and the audience's shock as to what's happening. We can't believe it.
Don't do it!
This creative decision effectively dramatizes the gravity of the situation and draws the viewer in. As they share in the shocking revelation of Shoko's desperate act, it feels as though time itself has stopped, leaving the audience in a gripping state of anticipation and worry. Luckily, Shoya manages to save her, only to fall off the building instead, ending up in a coma in the hospital. The theme of redemption and karma comes full circle, and Shoya ends up finding some friends and a family to call his own. In these scenes, a quiet voice demonstrates the power of silence, in addition to quiet and muffling sounds to intensify emotional stakes and offer a deeper understanding of a character's state of mind, proving that sometimes the absence of sound can communicate way more than dialogue or music. Happy 2020! It's gonna be a great year. I sure do hope nothing bad happens. Oh God. Oh God. Well, good thing I have lots of extra time to watch my favorite new anime, Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen is a dark fantasy supernatural series that was initially created as a manga by Gege Akutami. Serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump since March 2018, the series quickly gained popularity due to its compelling characters, intricate plot, and unique take on supernatural battles. This widespread acclaim led to the manga being adapted into an anime television series. Animation studio MAPPA, known for their series like Attack on Titan, took the project. The anime's director, Sung-Hoo Park, and the creative team at MAPPA have been praised for their skillful handling of the source material. They've deftly integrated a wide range of audio-visual techniques, including the strategic use of silence, to enhance the emotional depth and tension of key scenes. Widely loved by fans and critics alike, Jujutsu Kaisen has proved to be an excellent demonstration of the power of silence in anime storytelling. This series exemplifies the potential of silence in heightening dramatic tension, enhancing emotional depth, and creating compelling and immersive viewing experience. JJK is centered around Yuji Itadori, a high school student who becomes entwined in the world of curses, monstrous spirits that feed on human negativity. The series balances action-packed sequences with profound moments of introspection. One of the best examples of how cool silence can be is when it's used for dramatic peaks. The concept of domain expansions are introduced and explored at a great pace in Season 1. Seeing Sukuna use Malevolent Shrine for the first time always feels hype. But for 7 episodes, the show builds up 2 different mysteries about Satoru Gojo. One being his own domain expansion and how his technique works in general, and 2 being why his eyes are always covered. In one fell swoop, Episode 7 delivers, utilizing silence to add that extra level of coolness to Gojo. As Jogo throws his strongest attack in his domain at Gojo and Itadori, the blast is stopped. The music pauses.
Domain expansion. Infinite void.
The sounds of his curse technique kicks in, and we see his beautiful blue eyes for the first time. From there on, there's plenty of sound and spectacle, but it gives a moment to add this awe to what Gojo is about to do. Gojo is such a cool character, and complementing that style, the sound design, is what makes him a notably great character in the shonen sphere. Jujutsu Kaisen is still being produced to this day, with episodes coming out in the last few days. I'm sure that it will continue to utilize silence like the rest of modern and future anime projects do and will. So that brings us back to the present. If I talked about every specific scene from every anime, this video would take eons to drive home a few points that I think you kind of get by now. But I'd love to keep the discussion going, so feel free to comment any that you think that I missed. Silence in anime is not merely the absence of sound. It's a potential narrative tool, capable of evoking emotion, driving tension, and revealing character. In a medium filled with action, spectacle, and sound, the silent moments stand out, shining a spotlight on the subtler nuances of the story and its characters. From the lonely, atmospheric silences of Angel's Egg to the suspenseful, emotional silence of Neon Genesis Evangelion, the power of silence in anime is undeniable. So next time you watch your favorite anime, pay attention to the silent moments. Take time to soak in the stillness, appreciate the artistry, and reflect on what the silence means. You might just discover a new layer of depth to your favorite shows. After all, as they say, silence speaks volumes. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of silence in anime. If you enjoyed the video essay and want to see more like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, every moment of silence is a chance to reflect, to feel, to connect. So don't be afraid of the quiet. Embrace the power of silence.